And additionally, let's turn to our speakers. So we have Fabian Ziegler, the Chairman, Managing Director of the Shell companies in Germany. And over the course of the coronavirus, Shell has continued to deliver the day-to-day essentials for everyone: fuel for trucks, electricity for homes, natural gas for cooking and heating. But beyond that, Shell's played a leading role in helping communities, facilitating the production of hand sanitizers, giving away free food for people in need. For instance, I'm told from our Hamburg team that their corporate canteen has been transformed into a vibrant production site for thousands of lunch packages. And what's particularly noticeable is that even with the demand pressures during the coronavirus, that hasn't stopped their commitment to achieving net zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2050, which was only announced in April. Fabian has held several leadership positions at Shell over the last 20 years, and we're really excited to learn in more detail about his leadership in stewarding the energy transition, Shell's response to the coronavirus pandemic, and his thoughts on open innovation moving forward. Thanks so much for joining us today, Fabian.
Thank you so much, Simon. It's a privilege and a pleasure to be here. So really excited and look forward to a good chat with friend Saeed.
Absolutely. So over to you guys, and I'll see you soon for the Q&A.
That's great. Fabian, thank you so much for joining us today. I know that it is tough times with this COVID-19, and we all deal with it here in US, California, you in Germany, Hamburg. I was wondering, I know it's a basic question, but how is your company and your activity in Germany has been affected by COVID-19?
No, that's a good point to start the conversation. So it's interesting. I just reflected coming here that I think it was December 19. I spoke with the head of our trading business, and he is someone who lived a long time in Asia. He went through SARS and quite a few other challenges, and he spoke to me the first time about Corona, and he kind of implied that this would keep us busy for a long time, and I kind of just put it away. And now we are sort of with my team around about 2 months into full-blown crisis management. And a first realization is that we work for a privileged industry, for a privileged company in a privileged country. So it's great to be in Shell in this period, and I also believe Germany is doing a phenomenal job. But I mean, our company is affected in a big way, and I think like for everyone, it's first and foremost a health challenge. We take it incredibly seriously. We have dead colleagues in the company, not in Germany, but in the company. So it's quite a health challenge. The big challenge for us to deal with on a day-to-day basis is demand deconstruction. As you can imagine, in many sectors, you see that demand has really gone away. You know, planes don't fly anymore. Demand for jet fuels is down to zero. Transportation fuels. So I'm very proud in the way how we sort of continue operations, and we have also a strong resolve to continue to do exceedingly well for our customers. At the same time, come out of the crisis stronger, and at the same time do good stuff for society. And Simon kindly mentioned a few things. So altogether, it's tough, but I feel privileged all the time, and I'm deeply convinced we come out stronger out of this interesting period.
Yes, Fabian, you know, as Simon mentioned, we have 16 industries, and one of them is hospitality and travel. And we have many airlines like Lufthansa, JetBlue, Delta involved with us, and many hotel chains like Accor, Marriott. And yesterday, by coincidence, we had the Travel and Hospitality Expo, and our keynote speaker, Chip Conley, said, especially in travel and hospitality, you have to have a new norm, new measurement of success. And again, it's that industry, as you said, is not privileged and is hurt so much that he said we just have to measure progress day by day, week by week. I was wondering, during this crisis, do you have a task force? What is like your week like? Do you measure and make decisions weekly, monthly? Because the energy industry should be very long-term planning and capital intensive. How are you managing through this crisis?
Yeah, my week or my days look quite different to what they looked like. So there's a lot of home office and a big change in everyone's life, and I feel it every day. It's probably again where sort of positive feelings like gratitude come first to mind, and that my company is a very resourceful company. We have gone through good times, bad times. I think the company our company normally works quite globally, so a lot of decision making happens globally. And I think in a way it's great how our system recognized that this is a global crisis, but it happens locally. It pans out differently in different countries. So we as a country team, we are totally empowered to really run the business. I'm also really privileged that I have a leadership infrastructure that is incredibly effective. We have a very strong crisis team that convenes on a daily basis. We have sort of this crisis team, we kind of overlap it with our country leadership team. It kind of becomes one. It indeed convenes on a daily basis. It has become a totally sworn-in team. And you talked about measures of success. Normally you look at the dollars, you look at market share, and yes, you keep looking at these, but you complement it with the things that really matter, with health of your staff, with the well-being of your workforce, with sort of the attitude of your customers. And one piece that I also find incredibly important, next to kind of the cadence, the clarity of the mission and all of this, it's probably the notion of diversity. And I noted quite a few sort of, postings in sort of web fora that this is a crisis that is bad for females. And I understand what's behind this. Sort of the females have to do even more at home, etc. But I make the point because my team is incredibly diverse. We have probably 50-50 male, female, we have different nationalities, we have engineers, we have non-engineers, we have very experienced people, young people, and sort of this diversity of thought, this diversity of different perception, different thinking about stuff. That's what I believe is one of the key ingredients of success. But I mean, life is very different, but I have to say, in many ways, it's hugely enjoyable. I don't wish for this to continue for much longer, but it's fulfilling and very enjoyable in many ways.
If I can tell you, as you talked about diversity, I feel, at least, you know, I have approximately 30 plus offices around the world. And through this webinar and COVID-19 impact series, we feel much more united. And specifically with Shell and number of large organizations, we are working together in alliance to end plastic waste. And, you know, in fact, the year 2020, as you may see my pin on my chest, I was going to focus on sustainability in recycling, but this COVID-19 took me by a surprise. I know that, you know, Shell is working with Olin, with Dow, with DHL to deliver hand sanitization globally. Are you doing this in Germany or Europe or globally? And do you think like this challenge has united these industries on a focus and on a cause, which really, it's, as you said, it's a learning, it's a new, exciting thing to do rather than only worry about budget and profit and planning?
Yeah, Saeed, I mean, in a way, I totally believe that this COVID-19 crisis is one big opportunity creator, and it is one big community builder. And this particular campaign where Shell, together with a number of other companies, established, I mean, out of the blue, a supply chain for disinfectants for all the major German hospitals, which indeed is a bit of a scheme of sort of supply chains that was replicated across Europe. It's quite interesting. This was initiated by a request from the health ministry in Germany that came to us. And this came through the Association of Chemical Companies in the country, and we are also a chemical company. And my team took it up incredibly positively. And the story is that we kind of provided the base product, bioethanol, for the disinfectant. With a number of other companies, they added other ingredients. And then we could leverage our lubricant supply chain. So overnight, we had made for us 1,000 isotainers, which is kind of 1,000-liter containers. We brought them to the various terminals where ethanol is available. We shipped them to our partners. And it took us around about a fortnight to get this established. We encountered all sorts of difficulties on the way, but we made it. And the great thing is, this was not for money. This was for purpose. And there was one person that impressed me the most. And it was the head of the association of all the hospital pharmacies in Germany. And he was kind of running it, and Shell was probably one of the most important partners. We didn't know each other, but we spoke on a daily basis as if we were old friends. And trust was there, the purpose was there. It was all because we all wanted the same thing, and money didn't matter, cost didn't matter. And so this particular person, which is, his name is Frank Dörje, he really, really impressed me. And I will regard this person as one of my personal heroes in this crisis. And I also want to thank our partners, Dow and Evonik. And there's quite a few of our hauliers, which we normally use for fuels transportation. I mean, the amount of collaboration you got overnight out of nothing. and not for the big fees. It was just so inspiring, and I'm very proud of that, and sort of to do this stuff quite systemically. You know, we did bigger stuff, smaller stuff. You see it in Germany, you see it in other countries. It comes natural to my company, and that's one of the reasons why I get up every morning and go to work with a big smile on my face, because it's just a company that is bigger than making money, and it wants to do good for society.
Yeah. No, if it is possible, I would love to meet the gentleman who impressed you the most, you know, because I really do think leaders in this tough time, you find some people who, with a smile, with enthusiasm, come to work. We have to be realistic. We have to face the challenge, but I am confident we will overcome the challenge. As you know, Germans are great system builders, great technologists, and you know, I feel with the passion and purpose, we can overcome any challenge. You know, I want a little bit change the subject. You know, for an energy company, I believe I met briefly your CEO, Ben van Beurden, at the New York Assembly. It seemed like years ago, but it was actually in January. We were invited with the Kazakhstan Prime Minister for lunch or dinner. And it was really funny because Shell CEO was there, Exxon CEO was there, Chevron CEO was there, and none of us thought what is going on. I mean, like, quite frankly, we knew there was going to be a little bit of a challenge, or the economy may slow down, but he made an incredible commitment to become carbon neutral, like in 2050, which is in 30 years. Can you shed some light on that? I know that you guys plant a lot of trees. You're working in different energy sources like wind, solar, electricity, but hydrogen, biofuels. But how can you commit to such a thing as an energy company? Do you think what are the initiatives, and do you think it's, I hate to say it, realistic?
Yeah, no, you teed this up very nicely, Saeed, and I guess that's what you call true leadership. And we are blessed with our CEO, and I think he is a real thought leader, and he's a real industry leader. And I think at the time Shell went out with the first climate commitment in 2017. The commitment was not as big as it is now, which is a sort of real commitment to net zero emissions by 2050. I think at the time we might have had 3/4 or 2/3 of the answers, and this position might not have changed much. But in a way, the great thing is this company is very resourceful. We play the full piano. You listed quite a few means how you can get there, and Shell is pretty resourceful in most of them. So in a way, this whole commitment is grounded in a deep conviction that climate change is the biggest show in town. It's the biggest issue in the world. It might be at the moment a little bit challenged by COVID-19, but climate change is there. And then renewed our commitment to net zero emissions just a few weeks ago in the middle of Corona. And that was probably super inspiring to all of us working for Shell, that in a time where cash flow is challenged and You know, we had to take really difficult decisions we haven't taken since 1945. And I guess people know what I allude to. This company recommits to net zero emissions. And for me, it's probably my current role as the head of Shell in Germany in particular inspiring, because Germany is one of Shell's markets where society wants this, where government wants this. And government is very clear at the moment that post-corona, this will be back priority number one to really fight climate change. And at the same time in Germany, we have access to everything Shell is about. We have conventional fuels, we can decarbonize, we have hydrogen, we have gas, we have power, we can play the full piano, and which is probably also why it has inspired me in a big way. And for me, it's very connected to mitigate COVID-19, to kind of learn from it, to get as strong as you can. And then we will go full speed after this climate change opportunity. And I believe in a market like ours, it is an opportunity to really work with your customers. And so in a way, the sort of coexistence of COVID-19 with the climate change opportunity, I mean, it really makes my days very full, but also full of inspiration.
Yeah, you know, if I can tell, I hope I am here to see it in 2050. But my daughter, Sophie, who is 21, when you talk to that generation, it's not getting a job in a great company like Shell or Google or Facebook that inspires them. They really want to tackle this climate change, and the sustainability of our planet is their number one concern. And we sort of owe it to them to work with them to implement it. And I know that Shell commits to $2 billion worth of investments toward better, cleaner energy. And I happen to know this startup, it's a 10-year-old startup, Sonnen. Can you tell us a little bit in where do you invest your money, and what is how do you work with innovation and entrepreneurs?
Yeah, no, it's a superb question, and this wonderful company Sonnen is a German company. It is part of our new energies division, and we acquired Sonnen 2 years ago, but in a way it wasn't a real acquisition. It was more, it was kind of mutually right to work together, and I meanwhile got to know the company really, really well. The company's product started in the battery field. And sort of the principle is that in a house you install a battery, you then complement it with a photovoltaic system, and you kind of make your own electricity. You can store it in the battery, and then around this, Sonnen established a whole value proposition that goes into leasing electric cars, electric charging, you name it. And I'm very proud to say that I am one of the few customers of Shell in Germany that benefits from all offerings of Shell in Germany. And it is tomorrow that my Sonnen equipment will go live. So I have the installation company coming to my house tomorrow, and from then onwards, I will make my own electricity. So I hope the weather continues to be really, really good. And in a way, this picture is descriptive of the transformation we want to do. Germany, or Shell in Germany, is probably still the biggest supplier of heating oil to private households. We work on this together with our great market partner, distribution partners. And in a way, that's still an effective form of providing energy, but it's not very CO2 favorable. So we can decarbonize these fuels. We can complement them with nature-based offsets and sort of start the decarbonization there. But the whole Sonnen offering kind of paints a completely different future. And for us, it is also sort of painting the picture that energy transition is really working with our customers to kind of handhold our customers and move them from a traditional offer over to these new offerings. And I believe it's incredibly promising. You can still make money, but you can create a completely different CO2 footprint. And in a way, this also paints the picture of our new energies division, which is not the sole vehicle for Shell to go through energy transition. For me, it's more an incubator, and it's kind of bringing in a challenging business model. And by this, you also have then these completely new transformation platforms. And in a way, this Sonnen example is kind of how it works then for pretty much all the customer sectors across our business in Germany.
Wonderful. That's, again, I happen to know the company before we started to work closely with Shell. And, specifically our engagement in Hamburg originated with supply chain. Then we worked with Lloyd's Register and Shell in safety. Then through Alliance to reduce plastic waste, we are working together in sustainability. And then I know that you have a very big footprint, over 2,000 stations in Germany. And, I've been driving a Tesla for 7 years, and these charging stations that are becoming more and more popular, do you have any plans to put them in your station? And also, we talked about this e-commerce and picking up packages at a storage facility close to your home or on your drive home. I believe it can create new business model. How do you see the future of these stations? Because I also want to share with you, one convenience store chain in China, Watson, during this crisis made the digital print of the store, and you could buy stuff on WeChat, pay for it, either go pick it up or have it delivered to you. And I heard in middle of the crisis, they were generating 2 million new customers per day. And these are, I hope, the new business model. You talked about Germany for Shell to be like a new business models, new businesses like Sonnen. Do you feel we could implement similar projects with your stations for the entrepreneurs who are online right now?
Yeah, I totally believe so. And we have very ambitious plans for our retail network of the future. It's indeed 2,000 sites. We are today already industry leading when it comes to having available at our gas stations, still electric charging facilities. We are also the industry leader providing hydrogen at these sites, which is probably a proposition that is still a little bit behind its potential. So in a way, the model is that future value propositions will center again around the theme of decarbonization, but equally digitalization. And I envisage a future where our retail network, to avoid the word gas station, it'll become a destination that provides you with energy. We will want to be the clear leader in electric charging globally, but I mean certainly also in Germany, which is one of our retail strongholds. Nobody knows exactly how energy transition will evolve in B2C mobility, but I can also envisage that we have biofuels available, that we have hydrogen available, so there's a different low carbon energy offering available to our customers. Currently, quite a bit of income to us and our retail partners comes from the shop business. And you might say at the moment you see still a quite conventional shop offer. This will be modernized. We expect our customers to spend a bit more time in future. If you have to charge up a Tesla, by the way, there are other very strong products in the market. I get mine in a few months' time. It won't be a Tesla. We envisage there to be an incredibly attractive model. And the whole notion of partnering, it's already a big theme in our retail business anyway. And we will certainly look for new partners to join us on site and to benefit from superior customer access. We secure customer access by way of a loyalty scheme, and indeed, sort of to enhance the digital offering is one of the clear ways to go.
So that is very, very interesting, you know, because to have 2,000 locations and to be able to test the concept in 2 or 5 of them, and then if it works, to roll it out to possibly 2,000 locations. I want to little bit tell you a funny story. One time I arrived in Stuttgart at our expo, which was about 1,500 people, and the keynote speaker was the president of, I believe, a company called NIO from China, that they changed the battery of the car in less than 5 minutes, like in a space of 20-foot container. And, you know, I was a little bit shocked. I said, this is like Mercedes background, Porsche and Bosch and Volkswagen. Is it okay to have this Chinese electric car company to be our keynote speaker? And my Mercedes colleagues told me, Saeed, this is reality. We need sort of like a wake-up call. And I'm pretty curious to see what is the car you're getting delivery on, because I one time tried to use my connection with Oliver, the CEO of Porsche, to get one of the electric Porsches. And he told me, Saeed, I cannot pull any connections for you. So I don't know, can you share with us what electric car you're getting?
I can share with you that I used to be the head of Shell's contracting and procurement. So I learned a great deal about how to get access to things other people want to. But I just want to say it's a pretty slick and it's a pretty fast electric car, and I'm really excited and look forward to it. So let me leave it at that, if that's okay.
That is perfect. But also maybe since we are talking about a little bit personal stuff, can you share with us how this has affected, like my wife says, Saeed, I'm really happy. We have had you 2 months. Normally I travel 50% of the time. And she's not only happy having me, but our daughter whose university has closed and they went virtual, she's living with us. And we have had more family time than ever. How does this has affected you personally?
No, it's a great question, and I was not living with my family in Hamburg, where I live now, for probably the last 10 years. I've done work based out of London, work based out of The Hague in Holland, and came back to Germany or to Hamburg, essentially because I was inspired by energy transition. And my family was perhaps a little bit afraid of me coming back, and they then sort of the first few months before Corona, they saw me pretty much every day, and they said, it's okay. And then Corona came, and I think I go back to the notion of community builder. I'm incredibly proud of my family, how we pulled together. Incredibly proud of my wife. I call her my Corona queen. And sort of, we probably both thought, oh shit, now we have to spend all that time together. Huh? But I think it's again the sort of common purpose bit. Huh? And, together go through a tough time. And we just celebrated my birthday a few days ago. And I have to say, really, really impressed with my family. I love them more than ever. And there will be a lot of good in this horrible period we go through. And I think it's down to all of us to hold on to it and to celebrate it, and to probably also not forget it, huh? Which often happens. Huh?
That's exactly right. Maybe Simon, we can answer a few questions, and after the question, I would love to have your thoughts and closing remarks. And again,
Fantastic.
I can tell you exactly, with me and my family, we have never felt closer. And so far, thank God, we've been healthy. So it's been a lot of walks and a lot of cooking classes and a lot of old videos. In fact, we turned all of our VHS and little cassettes into digital. I shouldn't say we, my wife did it for the last 30 days. Go ahead, Simon.
Oh, no worries, no worries. Well, thanks so much, Fabian and Saeed. This has been a really, really enriching conversation. We've had a lot of questions. But look, our session today was entitled, leading through challenging times, managing through challenging times. And Fabian, you mentioned that you're running sort of this dual strategy, leading the energy transition as an energy company, and also managing through Corona. And we had a bunch of questions around what leadership practices have you put into place? Like, how are you making decisions as a team? How have you guys responded with such agility? And there was a mention here around some biofuels or otherwise, like things that you guys have been able to spin up very, very quickly. And as a large company, there's a lot of questions around how you guys manage to be so agile.
No, I mean, Shell is normally not known to be the most agile of companies, huh? And I think here comes another opportunity, huh? But I do believe there are a few sort of, it's probably more sort of leadership beliefs, huh? Or leadership traits that that kind of make up how we manage. And what comes to mind is sort of really deep empathy. And with deep empathy, I don't just mean, being kind, soft and caring, but also a deep sense of curiosity and genuine curiosity. You really want to understand deeply, you go deep. And I think that's a very important piece. I think there's probably the other piece around being decisive. And in a way, the model change with the COVID crisis in the company, that people say the country is in charge. Fabian, you can decide a lot now. It makes us just being incredibly decisive, and you don't have to go around and consult with dozens of stakeholders, as you name it, in these complex, big corporates. And then I think there's another piece in which I deeply, deeply believe, and it's kind of looking behind the curve. And that's very much what we try to do with our resolve to step up and to step out of the crisis as a true energy transition leader. If you just sort of manage the here and now, if you just manage the immediate crisis without deeply thinking, and I mean, deeply thinking is not enough, intelligently thinking, what's behind the curve? And I do believe that sort of this sort of resurrect from Corona and energy transition, there is a gold mine. And that's probably a few of the sort of leadership credos or beliefs that I believe help us to do, in my belief, exceedingly well. And I'm very, very proud of my team, very proud of my company. And yeah, I hope that sort of answers a bit, Simon.
Yeah, I think so. I think there's a nice ad here from Amir who was wondering, out of this crisis, are there leadership lessons you've learned or capabilities that you've discovered or built at Shell that you think you'll take forward, that you'll try and continue beyond the crisis?
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned a few, and probably one of the pieces I would add to that is optimism. And probably again, sort of well-explained optimism. If I just walk around and talk to my team and tell them everything is great, but it's not, or if I tell them everything will be great, but I can't explain it, I can't visualize the bridge to this better place, then it's for nothing. But I do believe we manage quite well, sort of, and it's probably again this bridge, sort of doing well in the crisis, be in control, which sounds a bit like, Germanic, but then also kind of manage the sort of medium term, which is at the moment a lot about staying in business and making money. We didn't talk about oil price developments, but I mean, it's tough. And then kind of look really ahead, which is energy transition. And I do believe you have a pretty good narrative that kind of, builds the bridge, and then your optimism becomes credible. And probably the word credible optimism is a key word. And I think by this you can really create followership and belief, and you can create action and energy.
Yeah, and it's so apparent how deep that purpose-driven mission sort of runs in all of your comments. We've actually had a lot of questions of people sort of curious about the future with respect to which kind of fuel sources do you think will be emerging as as major focus areas? Like, so for instance, there's questions around hydrogen, solar, wind, other kinds of things. Are you able to give some sense of what you're sort of seeing in the 5-10 year sort of time horizon?
Yeah, which I mean, there is no defined answer, and we work this furiously, and I think the one picture people need to take away, you have to play the full piano. There is not one route that will sort of decarbonize a system as complex as Germany or Shell in Germany for that matter. What will play a big role in the immediate future is biofuels. And we have a super exciting bio-liquefied natural gas supply chain, which starts with agricultural waste. And you know, you gasify it, you liquefy it, you purify it, you distribute it to your network, you sell it to truck companies. And we work this at the moment furiously, huh? And that's one of the big things. So biofuels is big. It's very evident electricity is big, huh? And we don't have enough Teslas on the road in Germany or any other e-cars. The government here is very keen to really drive that. The country works on a hydrogen strategy. Hydrogen will not be big enough in the next 3-4 years, but will be bigger than in the sort of years behind that. So it's really a matter of working the full spectrum. And the one thing I also want to mention is our nature-based solutions. Huh? And people think it's just planting trees, but it's much more than that. Huh? You can invest in really high quality reforestation projects or projects that avoid deforestation. You can invest in other sort of nature CO2 things. And if you do the right projects, if you have certification, if you work with the right partners, it's an additional component in your decarbonization story that works quickly and it works effectively. It will never be the only answer, but we work on this quite consequently with, I think, also quite some industry leadership.
Fabian, if I could ask a question, you know, we started an AgTech division, and right before the shutdown, I was in Fargo and I was in Tampico. I mean, quite frankly, I never thought I will be there. But you see incredible farms, you see incredible production of agriculture. And I can tell you, even though they provide food for us, they really need technology and supply chain know-how. And if you combine it by biofuel, you know, because again, if you're going to be in a farm helping them in productivity, it's great to have a biofuel plant to use their waste. You know, again, we would love to collaborate with you on that, both in the US. And because sometimes with ethanol from corn, they said feed aspect of the corn is worth more than the ethanol. But do you see new technologies in biofuel that it doesn't take corn and turn it into fuel?
Yes, I would love to respond to this question, but I would be on dangerous grounds, and I'm not an expert in the different biofuel technologies, so I wouldn't want to say too much. But I mean, there's so many aspects in this that have to be understood and managed incredibly carefully. There's so many sustainability aspects. There's competition with the food value chain, etc. And I just want to not go too deep into this. And certainly I could not really talk credibly about sort of this field in the US. So if you forgive me for not going too deep into it, but I just would be sort of on too thin a sort of knowledge base here, huh? And if you allow me to say that.
Yeah, no, if you can get the message to the right people at Shell, because we are working with the largest food distributors in US like Walmart and McDonald's, but we also Tyson Food, but we like to go back all the way to, you know, agriculture and growing the product. So we, again, I think if you can also from the waste produce good product, it's like incredible implementation, and it sort of, at least the agricultural people would like additional revenue for their waste. So if you could put us in the right contact, we really like to pursue it. But any word of wisdom for our audience, because we are toward the end of our session and I want to respect your time. And I really love that you said the piano, you have to play all, there is not one thing that will solve our problem. I love the way you said, you know, you're working with your team to actually face the challenge, but also have a bridge to the future and the vision. But closing remarks from you, and again, thank you so much, Fabian, for being here with us.
No, thanks, Saeed and team, for the opportunity to be here. And what is sort of the big things for me in the time to come is, I mean, there's probably a boring Germanic piece, but it's very important, huh? And it's sort of discipline and perseverance, huh? And the world wants to hear, we are on top of it, you know, we know the answer, it's under control, but the reality is it's not. And the one thing we all can do is we can be disciplined, we can follow the rules, we can, you know, the social distancing, the masks and all of this. And it's perseverance, huh? And I think we all have to do this, huh? That's for me one of the key pieces not to lose sight of. The second piece is again this opportunity view of the world, huh? And for me, it's not stupid optimism, huh? For me, again, it's deep belief, but it's also, I can envision it and I can touch it, huh? And wherever I look, this opportunity is there. And perhaps the third piece, which also stems from, if I look at energy transition, what's the biggest challenge there? It's collaboration. It's collaboration without a doubt, huh? You need to collaborate with people you know, you need to collaborate with people you don't know, you need to collaborate with people you thought you can't collaborate with. That's the nature of the beast, huh? And sort of to foster these collaboration skills and to also view again COVID-19 as a laboratorium to strengthen your collaboration skills. I think that would be another one. And I would just end by saying I thank you all, and stay healthy and stay in good shape and in good moods, and yeah, enjoy and celebrate a lot.
Thank you so much, Fabian, and I very much look forward to seeing you in Hamburg, and I love to one time see you here in Northern California.
Look forward to that.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Thanks to you both.